Working in customer support is never easy. Working in tech support? I can't even imagine. Welcome to this episode of Tales from Tech Support. Our first tale is from 7th Core. Little background. I don't actually work in tech support, but I'm the go-to guy for anything that has at least 1 volt of electricity in it for my family. And my job? I'm a farmer. Yeah, you read that right. Got my first PC with Windows 98 when I was 8, and since then, it was at the repair shop at least once a month because I was tinkering all the time with it. Now I'm using Linux as my go-to operating system on everything. Built and deployed my own home server for various things, overhauled the networking of the house, and so forth. The story? I was outside, working, mixing various types of pig feed for the various types of pigs we breed on our farm. My mother had some bills to pay, and she hops on the only Windows laptop we have at the house. That laptop is the designated computer for anything government, business, or banking related. Nothing else. I made that rule specifically. I keep Windows on it because I don't want my old folks to learn a new operating system from scratch, and I'm sure they don't want to. We had this conversation. Sure enough, something went wrong when she wanted to boot it up. The laptop was dead slow. It took 15 minutes to get to the desktop, and the antivirus icon wasn't even there. Of course, she calls me immediately explaining the situation. While walking to the house, I was thinking to myself, is the SSD drive busted? Could it be something else? The SSD was the first thing that came to mind. It's an old Samsung 850 EVO 128GB, and it's about 10 years old. The laptop is 8 or 9. Sit down at the laptop and start clicking around. The start menu took a solid minute to open. Half the programs didn't even show up in the taskbar. So I open up Task Manager and a strange service is hogging the entire CPU. I Google the service name on my phone, Windows Updates. Then it dawned on me. Usually when I work, I listen to Uncle Reddit reading these to pass the time. I go check the uptime, 34 days. So this little dual-core, 4th gen i3 laptop was working on installing a month's worth of updates, and apparently, someone didn't follow my instructions on shutting it down properly when they're done with it. I almost never use it. I reboot the laptop. It took 2 hours to install the updates. Check the SSD, it wrote 11 terabytes in its lifetime. The health is good. If I hadn't been listening to podcasts of this Reddit while working, I'd probably took a bit longer to figure it out. Funny how most people think closing the lid is turning off the laptop. I'm still thinking of buying a new SSD, or better yet, a new laptop. I know there's a lot of people that close their laptop lid thinking that it does shut down, and I know there's a setting, I believe, that you can set to where it does so, but there's also the average user that might not know the difference between sleep and shut down, but to them, it looks the same. Our next tale is by Palkia Jack. First, a little background. Factories, oil refineries, trains, etc. are controlled by a branch of technology known as OT, Operational Technology, which is separate from IT. OT computers are specially designed to perform simple, repetitive tasks with very little latency. Think things like apply brakes when the emergency stop button is pressed, fill bottle with dish soap, start the conveyor for half a second, stop the conveyor, fill the next bottle. The bulk of computers used in OT are programmable logic controllers, or PLCs, and they are again very simple. Originally, these PLCs were designed for standalone networks with no connection to the outside world. As such, they weren't designed to work with IT tools like personal computers. This leads us to an issue we had at a place I work. Once a month, all of the lines in this factory would mysteriously and suddenly have issues. Every single production line, packing line, etc., would all of a sudden shut down and stop working. Lines which were shut down would sometimes have a brief jolt of movement, and then stop again, like all the others. Aside from causing tens of thousands of dollars in product loss, this also posed a rather serious safety issue. If someone is performing maintenance when the machine moved unexpectedly, they could be hurt or even killed. Industrial equipment is no joke. Someone almost had their head hit by a robotic arm due to one of these incidents. Hours and hours of investigation went into this issue, both by resources at the factory and vendors. Everyone was equally confused by the issue, but it kept going on for almost a full year. Until by pure chance, there was a break in our case. Someone in the IT department happened to notice that these issues with the machines were occurring at the same time that they ran their monthly network scans via Lansweeper, and therein lies the issue. As I mentioned earlier, industrial equipment does not play nice with IT equipment. When Lansweeper interrogates devices on the network, it sends out packets that PLCs don't understand. Because PLCs are so simple, their response to these unexpected packets is to seize up and stop working. In some cases, it even causes unexpected movement on otherwise disabled production lines. IT was not supposed to be touching these networks, but some manager or another decided, but there are other networks over there, we need to maintain them too. IT has since had their access to industrial networks cut off, and there have been no further issues since. The PSA I'd like to put out to anyone who works in IT in a similar environment is to be more engaged with your manufacturing team. If you're doing anything that even has the potential to affect the network, send out an email and say, "Hey, I'm running site-wide network scans today. Keep an eye out for any unexpected behavior." If anyone had done that, this issue would have been caught right away and saved millions of dollars. And remember that your IT tools do not play nice with OT tools, unless your corporation has explicitly asked you to manage them. Industrial networks likely are not something you should be scanning or touching. You could kill someone. It amazes me to think that had IT just stuck to doing, maybe IT, as well as communicated a bit better, this entire situation could have been avoided. I can't help but wonder if anybody lost their job due to the fact that money was lost as a result. And our final tale is from Kurt Ludwig. So back almost 20 years ago, I was phone support, QA, install, field support for a company that made a video editing application. I was basically the go-to guy for that product in the Americas. We had a big installation with a major news organization that had a little satellite office on the other side of the US. My boss got called into that small office because the system wasn't playing back video well. It'd stutter or lose AV sync if they used high-quality video. After some discussion, the customer demanded that he reinstall the software. He refused, knowing that it wouldn't do any good. This went back and forth a couple times. The customer would demand, my boss would refuse. Finally, they get frustrated and throw him out. Like, literally, security escorts him out of the building. I don't remember why my boss was there. This would normally have been the kind of call I'd be on. Anyway, a year or so passes and the system hasn't magically healed itself, so it still works like crap and the customer is frustrated. They want to throw my company's stuff out completely, so somehow one of our sales guys works it so I can go on site. They explain the problem and I realize immediately that it's clearly a drive problem. They state that they want me to reinstall the software. Now, my mama didn't raise a dummy, so I tell them, look, it's not going to fix the problem, but if you want me to reinstall the software, I'll reinstall the software. While the software is installing, I pace around the room and finally squat down in front of the drive array, which is in a rack off to one side. I press my ear up against the drive array and say, "Can you guys hear that?" The sales guy is there with us. He's a friend of mine and grinning like a Cheshire cat. He knows I'm up to something. Anyway, nobody can hear anything. I get each of them to press their ear against the drive. Are you sure you can't hear that? One of those drives is spinning off balance. Nobody can hear anything strange, but I keep talking about it. Man, that drive sounds terrible. Bet that's your trouble. So we finished the reinstall and, lo and behold, exactly what I said would happen has happened. Which is nothing. The system still sucks, the same as it sucked before. So now that we dealt with it your way, can I actually fix it? This gets begrudging approval, and I call the drive manufacturer, Big TV Network. Remember, they've got a good support deal with the drive manufacturer, which is one of our preferred providers, and I know their techs pretty well. After a couple disk tests, it turns out that they have not one, but two failing disks. We pull the two shelf spares, rebuild, and by dinner time, this system, which has been the bane of everybody's existence for almost 2 years, works perfectly. The customer takes me out for a nice dinner, like $100 bottles of wine nice, and spends a couple of hours failing to get me to admit that the listening to the drives thing was bullshit. Sometimes technical advice needs to be delivered with a little bit of flair. I can't tell if these people were stupid or stubborn or both, but I mean, if you're having an issue with something for 2 years and then you actually have a tech there and they're telling you what's wrong with it and how to fix it, and you just want it done your way, it just kind of makes me wonder. I think they're a bit of both. Alright, that's enough tales for the day. Well, that wraps up this episode of Tales from Tech Support. If you liked the video, please drop a like, share my content on all of your social media, subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure to hit that bell so you're notified every time I upload, and drop a comment down below. It really helps with the algorithm and helps new people find my channel. Thanks for watching, thanks to my patrons, have a great day and stay safe out there.